it is 6 p.m. At this time, we will go ahead and call the meeting to order. Ms. Maria, can we have a roll call, please?
Yes, Mayor. Mayor Walter.
Here.
Vice Mayor Woolridge.
Here.
Councilmember Hawkins.
Here.
Councilmember Galeen.
Here.
Councilmember Anderson.
Here.
Councilmember Wall.
Here.
Councilmember Larson.
Here.
Mayor, we have a quorum.
Thank you. We are going to begin this evening's meeting with a moment of silence and a pledge of allegiance. I know that we've all watched the news and everything unfolding today from last night. I would like you to keep in mind all of the victims, their families, the first responders that attended to aid them, and then we will move into the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. Thank you. Next, we have call to the public. Call to the public for public comment on issues within jurisdiction of the Town Council. Council rules limit public comment to 3 minutes. Individual council members may respond to criticism made by those commenting, may ask staff to review a matter raised, or may ask that a matter be put on a future agenda. However, members of the council shall not discuss or take action on any matter during an open call to the public unless the matters are properly noticed for discussion and legal action. We'll begin with Mr. Tom Smith.
Madam Mayor, Madam Vice Mayor, honorable council members, it's an honor to stand here in front of you tonight to continue on something that started 12 years ago. I was here, so I can't sit down now. I want you to remember, well, first of all, my name is Tom Smith, 192 North Bailey, Florence, Arizona. I want you to listen to me about a couple of facts. For everything I say tonight, I have the facts to prove it. Please remember 2 facts. The Florence Copper Project is a wholly owned subsidiary of a Canadian company, which means at any time the mother company can bail out the subsidiary and work and leave without any responsibility. That is corporate law. Not something we like, but it will happen. Curious Resources Limited, which is controlled by a mining concern, Hunter Dickinson. Now these names have changed, but Hunter Dickinson is the same. In Vancouver, Canada, is a mother company. They deny that this aquifer could be polluted. I have just quoted the Wall Street Journal. You know and I know no one can guarantee it. I have a copy of a town resolution, our town resolution, which was passed on December 5th, 2011. This council, unless they amend this resolution, must stand against this copper company. From azcentral.com, I had another sheet of paper in here, which seemed to be missing at the time. They stated the following. This was a survey of 2,400 registered voters. 50% of Arizonans said the state should do more to protect water. 70% say the impact of mining on water is a serious problem. The Gila River Indian community did a resolution to support the town of Florence against what the copper company wants to do. I want you to talk to the Florence Copper Company. I want you to talk to the Gila River Indians. They will back this resolution. There are many more of them. At this time, my time is up, but I thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. If you would also care to finish at the close to call to the public, our second, you're welcome to do so at that time as well. We've done that for other residents.
You want me to continue?
If we could do it at the end, I just try to keep it consistent for everybody. Is that okay with you?
I have only one more thing to say. It'll take just a second.
Okay.
Many of Arizona communities are running out of water. We must protect our own, work together, speak to the Gila River community. They will stand with us again. I don't think this town has spoken to them since we got this resolution. They were good against the government. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Brad Cole.
Good evening, Mayor, Council members. My name is Brad Cole, and I'm here representing Johnson Utilities. Our business address is 968 East Hunt Highway, Santan Valley, 85143. I didn't prepare a big, fancy speech, but I came to kind of just speak from my heart regarding Florence Copper. I've been in the water utility business for nearly 30 years now, and I just can't fathom how you can inject an acid into the ground and claim that you're going to be able to recover that. And another thing that in previous paper opinions and appeals have discussed is that when the acid goes in the ground, it'll also leach out arsenic into the drinking water, and that's a serious concern. And the direction of flow of that water, goes through right through part of Florence, right underneath where some of you happen to live, and right through Santan Valley. To me, the risk is just something that we can't accept. If you weigh that risk versus the 40 jobs that it might create, I think it's not worth the proclaimed benefit that the mine is claiming. So I just wanted to encourage you all to keep up the good fight. I know we just lost a little appeal at the federal level, but maybe you can go to the Ninth Circuit Court, or maybe you can appeal at the state level. I just implore you to keep up the good fight and do what you're charged to do and protect the residents of Florence. And I guess I'll leave you with a visual. Imagine there's a glass box in front of me full of dirt, and I poured that acid in there, completely soaking it, leaving a couple inches of acid on top of it, and then I suck the water off the top. Well, how are you going to get that acid out of the soil? It's not going to happen. And a few of the appealing documents in prior cases also made mention of previous failed cases. This is an in situ type mining type of project. So it's not foolproof, it's not guaranteed. So I just implore you all and beg of you to keep up the good fight and protect the residents of Florence. Thank you.
Thank you. Gerry Revert.
Thank you. My name is Gerry Revert. My wife and I own and live in the Jean-Baptiste Michel house Lone Star store located at 220 East Ruggles Street in the Historic District. I have come before the council on several occasions with concerns in regard to the Historic District. Tonight, I have come to ask the council to do something to prevent this from happening again. That's the Florence paper, which says owner and town cannot communicate. I am here to ask the council to have the town staff review the Historic District Overlay Ordinance and any others needed to make a quick response team and make it possible for certain make possible exceptions of certain maintenance work from Historic District Advisory Commission review and building permit requirements. It is counterproductive to delay maintenance work while everyone has to wait for regularly scheduled meetings. That's Historic District Committee. When I was on the commission, we held special meetings to be responsive to these types of requests. A quick response team made up of town staff and at least one Historic District Advisory Commission member could evaluate the work. The team could either waive further action or require a review and/or building permit. Not all work done in the Historic District needs to be reviewed by the commission. Time delays and exposure to elements are more damaging to property. The town should not hold up maintenance work because old patches or repairs have become apparent. If the old patches and repairs are holding and doing what is intended, they can be left in place and noted for further stabilization. On private property, the town cannot and should not require homeowners to make repairs beyond that which is requested. There's more to discuss on this issue, and I'm going to ask you to please act upon my request. I'm willing to work with the town staff to help address these concerns. The town needs to be willing and commit to working with the property owners. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I just would like to go on record that we've always been informed from our town manager that he and the staff has been responsive in regards to communicating. And if somebody's not finding that that's the case, then we would appreciate communication as mayor and council as well, so we can facilitate that communication. I do know that probably about January, did you sit down with Chris Salas?
If you're talking to me, I can't hear you.
I am. I will touch base with you later. I will touch base. Thank you so much. Next, I have Mr. Robert Wolskowski. And I apologize if I did not pronounce that correctly. It's
pretty close. Good evening. Robert Wolczewski. I live at 4033 North Monument Drive, Florence, Arizona. I'm not going to take your time up and mention all the facts about the Florence Copper project that are too dangerous to even discuss. And I think this project is just not worth it. I just can't see that it's not going to spoil our water. It's just like impossible. It's going to ruin our community right down the road, not too far. And then our good friends at the EPA are going to clean it up with our tax money. So I just want you to know that I'm 100% against you. I mean, with you, and anything that we can do to help, we're here. We just want you to keep going on and fight this thing to the bitter. And thank you.
Thank you very much for coming out this evening. Mr. Robert Chappell.
Good evening, Mayor and Vice Mayor and members of council. My name is Robert Chappell. I live at 6665 West Stony Quail Way in Sun City, Anthem. I hope I'm preaching to the choir, and as former councilperson Tom Smith said, you've been fighting this, and he's been a very good fighter, this project of Florence Copper for quite a long time. I'd like to look at it a little bit differently than my friend Bob said, with all the scare tactics that have been raised. In 1997, BHP drilled some holes there and had trouble controlling the hydraulics of the extraction of what was in the ground. And they had leakage. That was never reported when Florence Copper, at that time Chorus, put forth information for a permit to mine that area. In 1997, we didn't have Anthem. We didn't have Parkside. We now have 2,600 homes there that are dependent on potable water. They're still building homes. They expect to have roughly 9,000 homes there by the time they build out. And it doesn't take a rocket scientist to realize that if the water is contaminated, that those two communities alone will be devastated. One of the other things I'm concerned about, and I think I've talked to Congresswoman Wall about this, Hunt Highway is 2 lanes. Now they got to bring copper there and sulfuric acid there in trucks. Suppose we have a spill. I know the chief, I talked to the chief, he said they are working on having a hazmat team trained in the event of a spill. But there's something like 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 people that come to work on Hunt Highway, to work in the prisons, to work in the courthouse. They only have 3 ways to come to Florence. If that road is closed, it would be devastating. So that's my concern, the contaminating of the water and the traffic and potential hazards. There's only 2 things in life that are safe, and people from Florence Copper said the procedure they're going to use is safe. Death and taxes are the only 2 things in life that are safe. But with that goes the possibility of accidents, human error, equipment malfunction. If any of that occurs, we're in trouble. And we're all trying to make Florence a prosperous and growing community, business and residential. If we have contaminated water, you might as well kiss that goodbye, because it's not going to happen. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Karen Chappell.
My name is Karen Chappell. I live at 6665 West Stony Quail Way in Florence. I'm here to support the town of Florence and all that you have to do to continue the fight so that we do not have this copper mine. And whatever we need to do to help you, we must do, all of us. Currently, I'm paying, our household is paying $2.65 to the CAGRD for every 1,000 gallons of water we use. And I'm to understand that this is paid to Pinell County to replace the water I use. Now, if I'm being charged as one homeowner for the groundwater that Johnson Utilities pumps, what is to say that the copper mine is going to use millions of gallons of water? And if water is so precious in Arizona, I can't see the justification to take such a risk to mine this copper. To me, it's just not worth it. And from what I understand, there has never been a copper mine that has finished mining copper and was able to return the water to the quality of its original state. So keep fighting, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Doris Ave. If I mispronounced that, I'm sorry. You even made me a pronunciation key.
Oh, that's fine. My name is Doris Ave, and I live at 3671 North Monument Drive, Florence, Arizona, in Sun City. My husband and I bought our house in Sun City in November of 2007, thinking what a great place to live in our remaining years. We thought in the future we would leave it to our son, who is 51, and his wife, who is 48, after we passed on. Now we have to worry if there'll be water available, and it sounds like it could be contaminated for the future. What a terrible thing that anyone living in the vicinity would have a home but no water. Think of yourself if placed in this predicament, and I know you do, all the members of the council. And if anything else, the water can make us sick, or there just won't be any. And we shouldn't let the Florence Copper continue when they already did not meet the original date for the permit for the underground injection permit. So they should not even be considered. Please save our water in town. I know the council stands behind us, and I thank you very much.
Thank you. And Mrs. Barbara Manning.
Good evening, Mayor Walter, Town Councilman. My name is Barbara Manning. I'm a Florence resident. As I was struggling over those 30 pages on the last decision from EPA, a light bulb went off in my head. I'm embarrassed that it took 8 years for the glow to occur. I felt like I had an epiphany, and let me explain what I mean. Every time an in situ mine goes to EPA, they have to have a permit. EPA gives them a permit. In those permits, it seems that EPA says there's so many means of protection here. In fact, the letter they sent to you kind of bragged and boasted about all the precautions they take to safeguard our aquifer. Every one of those permits that EPA issued to a mine, every one of those mines contaminated an aquifer. EPA is totally inept at protecting our aquifer. The only governmental entity that has worked to protect our aquifer is the Florence Town Council. I urge you to continue in whatever measure is available to you, and specifically request or demand, whichever is the appropriate term, to the air quality agency that you want another hearing, since Florence Copper is altering the contents of the permit that we first read. I thank you for your efforts, and Mr. Anderson, thank you for investigating the status of the air quality permit. You found out that it hasn't passed. Florence Copper is altering it, and that requires another hearing. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes our call to the public for the opening session. Item 6, yes, sir.
I would just like to remind everyone that we are not allowed to respond for legal reasons, but at the end, when the council speaks about current events, we can respond at that time.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't want you folks to leave. Hang around.
Item 6 is proclamation declaring October 8th through 14th, 2017 as Fire Prevention Week. Chief, would you meet me at the podium? Now, you guys know I love Fire Prevention Week, right? All the firefighters and the trucks come to the little K-8 schools, and they give amazing presentations that the goal is it will save the life of a child or a family. It's to educate the youth. So with that, I'm going to start the proclamation. Whereas the town of Florence, Arizona is committed to ensuring the safety and security of all those living and visiting Florence. And whereas the U.S. fire departments responded to 365,500 home fires in 2015, according to the National Fire Protection Association. Whereas the U.S. homes fires resulted in 2,560 civilian deaths in 2015, representing the majority, 78% of all U.S. fire deaths. And whereas newer homes are built with lightweight materials that burn faster than older home constructions. Whereas many of today's products and furnishings produce toxic gases and smoke when burned, making it impossible to see and breathe within moments. And whereas these conditions contribute to a much smaller window of time for people to escape a home fire safely, with people having as little as 1 or 2 minutes to escape from the time the smoke alarm sounds, and whereas a home fire escape plan provides the skill set and know-how to quickly and safely escape a home fire situation. And whereas a home fire escape plan includes 2 exits from every room in the home, a path to the outside from each exit, smoke alarms in all required locations, and a meeting place outside where everyone in the home will meet upon exiting. And whereas home fire escape plans should be developed by all members of the household, and whereas practicing a home fire escape plan twice a year ensures that everyone in the household knows what to do in a real fire situation. And whereas the Florence first responders are dedicated to reducing the occurrence of home fires and home fire injuries through prevention and protection education. And whereas Florence residents are responsive to public education measures and are able to take personal steps to increase their safety from fire, especially in their homes. And whereas the 2017 Fire Prevention Week theme, "Every Second Counts, Plan 2 Ways Out," effectively serves to educate the public about the vital importance of developing a home fire escape plan with all members of the household and practicing it twice a year. Therefore, I, Tara Walter, Mayor of Florence, do hereby proclaim October 8th to 14th as 2017 as Fire Prevention Week throughout this community. I urge all of the people of Florence to develop a home fire escape plan with all members of the household and practice it twice a year, and to participate in the many public safety activities and efforts of Florence's first responders during Fire Prevention Week 2017. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I want to add 2 things, and then I want to turn the microphone over to you. So last week, many of you saw in the newspaper, and Councilmember Wall is one of the members that also contributed to the effort of restoring one of our historical fire trucks. We can see how far that we've come in the area of fire service and protecting our citizens, and continue to talk with your children about, how do you get out safely? What do you do if there's a fire? And creatively solve. What are you going to do if, you're in the room and there's a fire on the other side of the door, you can feel it, it's hot. How are you going to get out? What is the plan? Chief, I'm turning it over for you for a few words at this time.
Thank you, Mayor, very much. Yes, this whole Fire Prevention Week is based on the Chicago fire, where much of that community was lost. That was a large city even back then. And the safety of our community is very important to the fire department, as I know it is to all of you that live here. We take it very seriously. So one of the things that's coming up is a dinner next week during Fire Prevention Week, where we're going to be outlining beyond fire prevention community risk reduction, which is really what we utilize now in terms of when we have discussions about safety. And we're going to be talking much more in depth about the efforts of the fire department and with our partners, other departments in the town of Florence, to make our community safer. And hopefully that we'll be able to, Mark's going to be there, and he'll be able to hopefully share some of that with the community in terms of some of the efforts and some of the things that have been accomplished. Very exciting. Also wanted to just tag on to the fire truck project. It's actually 3 fire trucks. We hope to have restored. It's one of the most exciting projects I've been involved in a long time. A lot of partners in it, the college, the prisons, the historical society, the town. It's pretty cool. So hopefully stay tuned. There'll be more on that coming. So thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Take a picture for Mr. Mark. Perfect, thank you. Item 6B is presentation on the Historic District Wireless Fire Alarm Program. Chief Strayer.
Madam Mayor, members of council, about a year ago, staff stood before you and suggested that we apply for a community development block grant to help the historic district. That particular project, as proposed, was to provide water taps at all of the buildings in the downtown on Main Street to reduce the cost of the folks that own those historic buildings in terms of being able to provide fire sprinklers, as much as cut the cost of providing fire sprinklers in half by providing that. Unfortunately, we were not funded to do that project. It didn't meet the priority list of the state of Arizona. So instead, the state is helping us to put in a new 12-inch water main so that we can increase fire flows in the historic district and, in fact, throughout town. And that project has been approved very recently, and thank you to Jennifer for her hard work. Since that time, the town has continued to focus on how do we assist the historic district? How do we make sure that we save and protect the buildings in our historic downtown? As you know, and the chief has provided a presentation previously, we've lost 4 of those buildings in the last 20 years of our historic buildings. And the concern, obviously, is if there were fires in the downtown as it exists today, the buildings are so close together, we could lose all of the buildings. We've been doing some research, and the thanks goes out to our fire marshal, John. For quite some time, we've been talking to vendors about the potential of wireless fire alarms in historic buildings so that the buildings wouldn't be disturbed and to potentially reduce the cost of providing those wireless systems. And John, very recently, in the last 2 weeks, that's how quick we're responding to this demand. In the last 2 weeks, John talked to a vendor. We've had a meeting with that vendor a week ago, and they went and did some surveying for us last week to understand how a wireless system might work in the town of Florence and how we might incorporate that for the historic district. And just as recently as today, we've received some further information regarding those technologies and the potential for the town to provide, and I would propose that we do provide a wireless panel that the town owns and pays the maintenance fees for to encourage our downtown business owners, our downtown building owners to provide fire alarm systems that would be hosted by the town and done in a wireless manner. So with that, I'll turn it over to the chief.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of the council. I just wanted to do an overview of what we're proposing and looking at. I do have John Kemp is a battalion chief in charge of fire prevention and code enforcement here tonight. As Brent said, has done a lot of work on this, as he does in the other areas as well. And so he's available for questions if you have any specific questions about the system. My goal in this presentation is to give you an overview of the why and just kind of a big picture look, but anything detail related, John is available for that and be happy to answer those questions. The pictures on the slide, the first slide here, are those buildings that have been lost, about 25% in floor area in the last 23 years of just, we're talking Main Street here. So it's really one of the main reasons we can't afford to lose any more. We're really talking about the historic district as outlined in the map on the right here, although this fire alarm system primarily applies to commercial businesses open to the public, not private residences. This is consistent with our strategic plan, which we, in our mission and vision, are very specific about protecting our history. This is consistent with protecting our history. The fire code, when it comes to historic buildings, recognizes that they're unique and that there's aesthetics and unique construction features that does not lend itself to typical code enforcement. So to that end, they've established Section 102.5, which says that fire protection in designated historic buildings and structures shall be provided in accordance with an approved fire protection plan. So that gives us some latitude in terms of establishing a plan and implementing it, as long as we're meeting the goal of preserving these buildings. So what are the elements of a plan? Well, the gold standard is always fire sprinkler systems. However, that doesn't always work for all buildings. So you can't have necessarily, it isn't always necessarily the best fit, although most times it is. They're also fairly expensive, and sometimes that's a prohibiting factor. So our first choice as the fire department is always going to be a fire sprinkler system, but monitored fire detection systems are also very good. You know, destructive fires are kind of like cancer. If you catch it early, you can stop it before it overwhelms and consumes the occupancy. One of the ways you do that is through the establishment of early detection with these systems. Another element of this plan is appropriate code enforcement. And what I mean by that is taking into consideration the unique aspects of the historic buildings when you're enforcing the code and come up with reasonable ways to meet the objective. And it's case-by-case basis in some cases on this. We also want to establish regular fire inspections and property owner fire safety education. We're planning a meeting with the property owners soon to talk about this program and some other fire safety education elements. I just, as an example here, the Occupational Safety and Health Administration speaks to this issue of fire detection system. It says, when combined with other elements of emergency response and evacuation, can significantly reduce property damage, injuries, and loss of life from fire in the workplace. And here's where we really tune in. The main function is to quickly identify a developing fire and alert the building occupants and emergency response personnel before extensive damage occurs. That's our goal for the historic district, and that's the reason we really want to see this take place. So what is it we're talking about? Well, technology has advanced greatly in this area over the last decade or so, and there's wireless systems that are now available that are completely UL listed, completely National Fire Protection Association compliant, and to some degree they're specifically made for historic buildings. And by that we mean you don't have to knock down walls or poke holes through walls or run a lot of wires. These systems are battery operated, they're wireless, and they really they're much less intrusive than a typical system. And the other good news is by leveraging this technology, it's much more cost effective than a traditional system. We had a recent quote on one of the buildings for a traditional fire alarm system that came in at almost $7,000. This system is under $1,000 and it's fully compliant in every way. So what we're looking at here, and this on the left is a picture of some of the components, but we're talking about a partnership here where the town will come in and install the panel. The one panel in this new technology has what's called 1,024 points. A point is one smoke detector or one pull station or one water flow detector. So this one panel with over 1,000 points, in theory, could protect an entire main street. So that's what we're talking about when we say cost effective. So the town would install that. We would pay the monthly fee. And then we would give folks as they bring new businesses in the option, they can still go out and get their own system, or they can partner with us and tie into our system. We've built the infrastructure. It's a very cost-effective way for them to come on board. An example of that is we currently have in the McFarland State Park a panel that is gone out and needs to be replaced. So we're looking at the feasibility of perhaps tying this system off the McFarland Park into this new system, and there's a way to bridge that. So you don't have to completely replace everything. You can bridge off of existing systems and tie into a wireless component that reports back to the panel. So we're looking at that. The subscribers in this case, if they opted in, would have to put in a professionally installed system, sign an agreement, but they would have no monthly fee after they did that. They would just be responsible for the upkeep of the system, which is the replacement of batteries every 3 to 5 years in most cases, and then allow access to the property for inspection and maintenance as needed. So it's a pretty good deal for them, very cost effective in that regard. So along the lines of some of the progress that's been made and what is already in place, these buildings have either fire sprinkler systems or detection systems of some sort. One of the biggest things we're excited about as a fire department is Brunenkamp now has a fire sprinkler system in it. So we feel like that building's been protected. And that was a great investment by the town in the future of our historic district. On the lower left there, you see McFarland State Park. That was the building I was referencing on evaluating the feasibility of bringing them on board of this system. So that is really it in a nutshell. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have about this overview, but if you have anything specifically about the system, Chief Kemp is here to address those.
Thank you for your presentation. Just a quick question. Have you already started talking to some of the business owners about this program?
Yes, we've talked to one of the property owners who she said, I explained it to her, she's already said she's in.
Okay.
Now, McFarland, we visited with the state on that. I believe Brent has. I haven't spoken to him directly. And so, yes, the short answer is we have spoken with folks.
And the feedback that you're receiving from the various...
Very positive so far, but very early. As Brent said, this has really evolved very quickly, but preliminarily, yes, very, very good feedback.
Good. Well, it's cutting edge, and it's fire safety, and it ties in exactly with what we're working towards for our Main Street. Council, do you have Councilmember Wall?
Would you explain what happens when a fire is detected in one of the buildings?
Yeah, John, why don't you come up and speak to that?
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and members of the council. What happens with the off-site notification if one of the points make any type of activation of a fire or notification? It would go off-site to what we call a central station and monitor what type of activity is going on. At that time that happens, within 20 seconds, they would relay a call to our dispatch center and activate our deployment. And that could be either a pull station, a smoke detector, or heat detector, whichever we have designed for the structure that is using the appliance.
Thank you.
Sure.
2 additional items is the system that we received a quote on today would have an auto dialer component and would identify the building. So it wouldn't just be something has gone off on this panel. It would show which building that at the point was activated, and then as part of one of the quotes I saw today, there's also a beacon and alarm on the outside of the building which would identify which building had the particular item go off. I think they call it a sounder and beacon.
Yeah, it's an audio-visual, it's a combi unit is what we call it, and essentially this system can be built to as much as we want it to go, or the occupant or the owner wants it to go, but still meeting all of the codes and standards.
Excellent. Councilmember Larson.
And just to clarify, you said this is a wireless system, so it's obviously connected via wireless internet, correct?
It's RF, radio frequency, similar to our radios. Now the panel itself, the one control panel that we would have, obviously that would be powered through the building's electrical source. But anything outside of that, all of the points, repeaters, antennas, all talk wirelessly to include the off-site monitoring.
And the panel has a battery backup as well. I forgot what they were telling us last week. It was inactive 4 or 5 hours, 7 hours, something like that, and active it was like 45 minutes or something like that. So if there was a total power failure, it still operates for a while, hoping that you have a backup generator or something associated with it.
If you have complete power outage in the town, you have 60 hours of operation, to include after that 60 hours, up to a 5-minute alarm signal.
Will this also notify the person if the alarm is going off, obviously inside the building? Would it continue to do that if it's offline?
Yes, it would do, the notification process would be local and offline.
Okay.
Thank you. The presentation actually reminded me a lot of, the systems that we have at the school, except for they're not wireless in the way that they operate and communicate externally.
Essentially, what we have is the wireless system moving throughout a building, depending on how complex the building would be, the distances between all of the points, the smoke detectors, and even within the downtown area, we would be using repeaters that would link the RF frequency and make sure that we have the constant back and forth signal, not only to receive an alarm, but to receive a trouble, a low battery, something disabled. It constantly sends those signals back and forth and alerts whoever we put into the response model. It could be a maintenance worker, it could be the fire department, whoever that is. So it monitors everything constantly, every 200 seconds.
One of the beautiful things about the system is the more people we have take us up on it, the cheaper it'll be. And quite honestly, the more protective it will be, because these radio repeaters can jump repeater to repeater. So the more of them that you have out there, the better. And if one goes down, then there are multiple others that can stand in its way if it's a robust system. If there's 2 or 3 points, that's not the case. But if there was 15 to 30 points, it becomes a fully redundant system and can jump repeater to repeater.
Thank you very much, Councilor. Is there any other questions or comments?
Yeah, I've got questions. I know you're targeting the historical district, but would this be applicable to other units in town? We have apartment complexes, we have the motels, we have all these other commercial facilities. This sounds like it'd be a good application for those folks too. We're trying to get people into it.
Councilman Anderson, this commercial wireless system has come a long way through our research. And what you just said, the multifamily commercial perspective, historical districts, unique situations like museums, things of that nature, this product is designed specifically for those.
Good.
So right now we're looking specifically at the historical piece, but I'm sure that this could expand further.
Good, thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Chief Kemp. And thank you, Chief Strayer. Our next item is item 7, which is our consent. All items on the consent agenda will be handled by a single vote as part of the consent agenda unless a council member or a member of the public objects at the time the agenda item is called. Item A is to approve the fiscal year 2017-2018 Florence Facade Improvement Program. Item B.
I'd like to remove item B.
Let me read the whole thing first.
Okay, go for it.
Yeah. Item B is approval of an administrative services contract with the Florence IDA for management of the Florence Facade Improvement Program. Item C is approval and ratification of the terms of engagement for legal services and engagement agreement letter with Jennings, Strauss, and Salmon, PLC, for legal representation of the town of Florence as plaintiff in connection with pending litigation against Florence Copper Incorporated, AKA Curious Resources, Arizona Incorporated, in pending case Town of Florence versus Florence Copper Incorporated, case number CV 2015-000325, previously CV 2013-02511. Item D, approval and ratification of the revised terms of engagement for legal services and engagement for legal services and engagement agreement with Gust Rosenfeld, PLC, for regulatory matter including administrative appeals and potential litigation against the county, state, and federal environmental agencies with respect to the permitting process for the Florence Copper Project, including but not limited to permits for the proposed production test facility and any future commercial operations. Item E is approval of accepting the Register of Demands ending August 31st, 2017 in the amount of $2,408,662.03. Ladies and gentlemen, that is your consent agenda. Is there any member of council or public that would like any item removed?
I'd like to remove item B.
Okay. Is there any member of the public that would like any items removed? All right. I need a motion for approval of the consent agenda, removing item B.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda, items A through E, with the exception of item B.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Councilmember Larson, item B.
In regards to item B, the indemnification and insurance clause has been removed, it was not in our agenda, in our packet.
All right, thank you for bringing that out. Mr. Billingsley, can you please clarify?
Yes, ma'am. Madam Mayor, members of council, at our last meeting, we had a work session. One of the things that was brought up from the IDA was specific to why the town wanted the IDA to indemnify them as part of this. Turned it over to our legal team, and our legal team recommended to just remove those two sections from the contract because we are not building anything and the IDA is not building anything, so there was no need for us to indemnify each other.
Okay.
So I make a motion to approve item B as with the removal of the indemnification insurance clause.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. New business. Item A is resolution number 1644-17. This is discussion, approval, and disapproval of a resolution of the Town of Florence, Pinal County, Arizona, authorizing the Town of Florence to execute a development agreement with Startup Pavilion Incorporated, DBA Innovation Pavilion Incorporated, and Pinal County to construct a mixed-use project on approximately 12 acres in the Territory Square District. This evening, Mr. Billingsley will be presenting. We also have representation from IP Pavilion as well as from the county with Mr. Patel. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Madam Mayor, members of council, it's with great pleasure I stand before you this evening regarding Resolution 1644-17, specific to a development agreement with Startup Pavilion, also known as Innovation Pavilion. As you know, staff was directed in August to move forward and negotiate a three-party development agreement with the town, Innovation Pavilion, Startup Pavilion, as well as Pinal County. I'm back before you this evening with a resolution as well as the draft of that particular development agreement. Very excited to be here in front of you. This is a wonderful opportunity for the town of Florence in terms of continue to invest in our downtown, diversifying our economy, and supporting innovation in the town of Florence. As the mayor said, we have Himanshu Patel, Deputy Manager of the county, here with us this evening, as well as Vic Ahmed from Innovation Pavilion. I'm going to turn over some time to Vic to speak to his potential project.
Good evening, Mayor, respected council. Thank you for this opportunity once again. We have presented before also, and we'll give you a quick summary of what we are intending to do. And if there are any questions, kindly let me know. So the previous slide was the rendition from our initial rendition from our architect. And as you are aware that this is a development project that is going to have two parts to it, a real estate part and innovation services that include smart city projects, corporate innovation to draw companies to the city, as well as workforce development programs. And this is the location across from this site right here. And we're talking about 12 acres of land where we will do this development. And we're going to work with the city and other stakeholders in this area to work out the details of what are going to be the components of this real estate model. Again, this is the layout of the 12 acres of land that you can see in this diagram over here. Again, another sort of, this is the distribution of buildings that we are expecting that conceptually has been laid out by our architect. This will evolve over time as we engage the stakeholders who are going to be resident on this campus. So this is merely an initial design right now. Again, this is the layout of where this stands in terms of the wider geography in this thing. I believe all of you have seen this before a couple of times. That's it.
I know that everyone has read the information, but this is not a property purchase tonight. This is not a property transaction of any kind. This is a development agreement to set the rules for how we're going to work together in the future, the town, the county, and Startup Pavilion, to build a remarkable project in the town of Florence. We'll be coming back to the council in the future regarding how the land transactions will take place, but essentially by approving tonight, we kick off the innovation assessment phase of the project, which is going to include a number of public meetings, innovation work, smart cities work, the hiring of an employee that will work for Vic, but we will host in Town Hall while we're working on the startup phase of the project. Are there any questions with respect to the public-private partnership?
Are there any dates for deliverables?
Yes. If you look at Exhibit C, that's probably the most key exhibit in the development agreement. There are a series of investments that are required to trigger further investments from the other parties, as well as timeframes for deliverables and a listing of what those deliverables are. Those are shown in Exhibit C and are tied by date in the contract. So if you give, or if I give Vic an opportunity to answer this, he will say, these are deadlines, but their hope is to move faster than the deadlines in the agreement.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brent. Indeed, it's in our interest to move as fast as possible financially, of course, and also doing all the activities on the ground. So I think both parties in this public-private partnership are motivated in exactly the same way.
Thank you.
Councilmember Wall.
Could you address the process of stakeholder meetings and who will be invited to those meetings?
Yes, indeed. So as Brent mentioned, we'll be hiring a resource on the ground and locating them here. Plus, many members of our team will occasionally visit from the headquarters. And we will be, alongside the city, convening people in the innovation ecosystem, in the education area, in the entrepreneurship area, in the workforce development area. So literally all the key stakeholders, with the help of the city and the county, we've already started some of that process. I've had some meetings, but we will make an inventory of all the players in this region and start conducting those meetings within a month of signing of the agreement.
Will that include invitations to the general population of the area?
Yes, indeed. Many of these will be public meetings in which anybody and everybody will be invited to participate and get involved with this project.
Great.
Thank you, Vic, for coming out again this evening. It has been a pleasure to work with you through this entire process. Mr. Billingsley, you've done a great job of communicating between the county and IP Pavilion and communicating with council throughout this entire process. So thank you for bringing our strategic plan and vision to life.
Thank you to the council and thank you to the entire staff of the city and the county that have made this opportunity possible for us as well. We are very excited and hoping to get started soon. Thank you.
Yes, Vic, can you also introduce your coworker?
Yes, indeed. My apologies. Jennifer Bustamante has been coming with me on many meetings. She's flown in with me from Denver, and you will continue to see her off and on here in Florence.
Thank you. Would you like to say anything this evening as well?
Mayor, thank you very much. Council members, thank you very much. It is a pleasure to be working with the town of Florence, not only Brent and his staff, but also all of you. Thank you for some of you that made your way down to our headquarters in Centennial, Colorado. We greatly appreciate the time that you took to understand our vision and our mission and what we are hoping to bring and are planning to bring to the town of Florence. I will be one of the members who will be helping to implement all of the activities here, along with our staff that we do hire shortly after we get everything signed and agreed. I'll be working closely on a day-to-day basis with our resource here to convene all the stakeholders here in town. So I will be part of probably frequent trips here. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Yes, Mr. Billingsley.
Madam Mayor, I would be remiss if I didn't recognize all of the people that have contributed to this point. It's been a lot of work from a lot of folks and a lot of time. Obviously, our attorney, Mr. Matthijs, has been instrumental throughout this process. Jennifer, as well, has put in lots of hours, lots of time, and has had to put up with me and my craziness. And obviously, a lot of thanks goes out to the county manager, Greg, as well as Tim, who is their economic development director. We've had a key team, and we've been meeting a lot for the last month to get to this point, and we're just so happy and exhausted to get here. Thank you.
Thank you.
We want to hear anything from Mr. Patel?
He said no.
I was hoping to get out of this. Good evening, Madam Mayor and members of the council. Himanshu Patel, Pinal County, 674 West 16th Street, Florence, Arizona. It's just been a pleasure. You know, the leadership at Pinal County has completely changed in that we are a partner in our overall betterment of the county as well as municipalities that are within our county. So we are excited about this opportunity. And personally for me, it's a great opportunity because, as you know, of my investment in Florence and the vision of what we've seen in Territory Square. And so this is certainly a very much important aspect of the development of downtown or north part of Florence. So be happy to answer any questions in relationship to Pinal County and its involvement in this project.
I think Brent has explained it to us previously. We really appreciate Pinal County partnering with us on this.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, we need a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt resolution number 1644-17, a resolution of the Town of Florence, Pinal County, Arizona, authorizing the Town of Florence to execute a development agreement with Startup Pavilion Incorporated, doing business as Innovation Pavilion Incorporated, and Pinal County to construct a mixed-use project on approximately 12 acres in the Territory Square District.
Second.
Motion in multiple seconds. All in favor? Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion unanimously carries. Item B is resolution number 1645-17. It's a resolution of the Town of Florence, Pinal County, Arizona, approving the final plat for Anthem at Merrill Ranch, Unit 5, and authorizing execution by the town manager of supporting documents. Mrs. Orton.
Hello. Madam Mayor and council members, this is Pulte Home Company is requesting a final plat for Anthem at Merrill Ranch, Unit 5. The proposed subdivision is located within their Parkside community. There are 57 single-family residential lots on 14.24 acres. The density for this area is 4.0. Remember that the overall density in this single-family residential is 3.5. So some will be lower and some will be higher. The neighborhood streets in this area have a 42-foot right-of-way to ensure ADA compliance. The preliminary plat for Anthem at Merrill Ranch Unit 5 was approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission on April 20th, 2017. The Public Works and Fire Department staff have reviewed the proposed subdivision and support. Also, the town's GIS coordinator has reviewed the addresses and has also approved those and the street names, and the water and sewer infrastructure will be provided by Johnson Utilities. A vote of no before the council will reject the final plat, and the applicant would need to come back and return with the new revisions for a final plat. A vote of yes, final plat will be approved and recorded with Pinal County. Pulte Home Company LLC will construct the roadways within this subdivision to town standards and will maintain the roadways until the end of the construction warranty period. Staff recommends approval for resolution number 1645-17, final plat.
Okay, thank you. Are there any members of council that have any questions regarding this item? Okay, with that, we need a motion.
I make a motion that we adopt resolution 1645-17, a resolution of the Town of Florence, Pinal County, Arizona, approving the final plat for the Anthem at Merrill Ranch Unit 5 and authorizing the execution by the town manager of the supporting documents.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. All right, motion carries. Item C is discussion, approval, disapproval of a non-exclusive revocable license agreement with the Copper Basin Railway Incorporated for access, legal access, to the Post and Butte Preserve. Brian, there he is.
Mayor. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members. The agreement before you tonight is for, as you had mentioned, legal access to the Post and Butte Preserve. The accepted access point has always been the underpass at the railroad, although we never had an official agreement with the railroad to use that. So if you go by there on any given day, there are no trespassing signs, which everybody has ignored for decades. So our goal with this agreement is that we take down those signs later this week and make that an official access point to the preserve. The map here just shows everybody where F Mountain, Post and Butte Park is. And the next slide, let's see, is the access point that we've negotiated with the Copper Basin Railroad so that we can continue to park there, go through the underpass, and then access the gate that's on the other side. So again, there is no access to the west, the east, or the north. This is our access point. So this agreement just kind of legalizes that and acknowledges that we're responsible if anything happens going through there. So with that, I'd recommend approval of the agreement.
I'm really excited about this agreement. We have hiked there for over 12 years. And I know many of you have as well. So,
I have a question.
Yes, Ms. Wall.
Somewhere in this agreement, the term bicycle access is mentioned. Are we actually going to allow bicycle access to Post and Butte?
Mayor, Vice Mayor, Councilmember Wall. There is access, there are some trails around the perimeter a little bit that are available for mountain biking, but the summit trail itself probably is not a good idea to ride a mountain bike on. The goal long-term would be that this would be non-motorized trails throughout the Poston Butte Preserve, but bicycle access is one of those things, but I anticipate that most of it will be hiking at this point.
Thank you.
Question, what about the motor vehicles, the ATVs and motorbikes? I've seen some motorbikes come through that and almost wipe out people that were coming out of the parking lot going through the...
Mayor, Vice Mayor, Councilmember Anderson, we have posted that there are no motorized vehicles on the Poston Butte property. So that 160 acres that the town owns, there are no motorized vehicles. That doesn't mean that they don't try and get out there. There is a fence all along the east side that is posted. We actually added some new signage within the last couple months that shows that. There are cattle out there too. The sections to the both east and west, I believe, BLM currently has an agreement with a cattle rancher. So that's why there are gates out there. The gates are not for people to access with ATVs and side-by-sides. So we highly discourage that. And again, we did post some signs along the east side, and there will be signs posted on the highway side of the new access point, and there are some on to the north when you get to the actual gate. So we're going to continue. I think that's a marketing effort that we need to continue as we encourage people to hike up there.
Thank you.
Okay, we appreciate your efforts. And with that, we need a motion.
I'd like to make a motion for approval of the non-exclusive revocable license agreement with the Copper Basin Railway Incorporated for access to Poston Butte Preserve.
A second.
Motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Ladies and gentlemen, you can legally hike up F Mountain. Item D is discussion, approval, and disapproval to enter into a contract with Holbrook Asphalt Company providing HA5 high-density mineral bond pavement preservation treatment in various locations as part of the Town of Florence CIP T69 pavement preservation program in an amount $295,034.27. Now, Mr. Salas is not, there you are. Well, I saw Michelle and I didn't see you earlier. You were sitting back there. Okay. Did that mean to read in an amount not to exceed?
Yes, it should have not to exceed.
Okay, we'll read that into the record. All right, Mr. Salas, you have the floor.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of council. This is an item that we've brought recently, at least 2 other times in the last, I think, 18 months. Again, it's a very proven product that we've been very happy with. We've been happy with the service, the application, the general cleanup afterwards, as well as the product itself. It's quite unique in the fact that it does not wear off rapidly like some of the other products that we've used in the past. We have a complete list and breakdown as asked previously. We do have a list on here that is kind of labeled the scope of work. So we have all the streets individually labeled, as well as a map at the back of it for any questions as it relates to which roads are going to be done. This year's cycle, we're including 2 major streets, which I believe are Spirit Loop and Desert Blossom Way, as well as Sun City Boulevard. And there is striping as well as included in this contract. And then the sole remaining unit or phase within Florence Gardens that is not going to be repaved as part of Florence Gardens 4 and 5 is also on here. Florence Gardens Phase 1. And I guess I should just include Florence Gardens Phase 4 and 5. Those bid documents are ready, so they should be being advertised here within the end of this week to early next week.
Thank you. I was going to ask you about that as well, because I know that you also are aware some residents called and, they had asked Where are we in the process? So I'm glad that you tied that in this evening.
Yeah, design is done, and we were just working through, again, Town's Council, Cliff Mattice, on the actual bid solicitation documents themselves, and we just finished those off this morning for First Street, and now we're going to be applying that same format to Florence Gardens 4 and 5.
Okay. Now, I did have one question, because there are some areas in Anthem that when I sat down with Mr. Billingsley and we talked about the different areas and the different units, there was one unit that had a higher usage and it was in more need of having the HA5, but instead another unit that had, I think, 65, and the other unit that you and I discussed were at 90% already used, the 65 area ended up getting HA5'd instead of, all right, so I'll just say areas. So like Councilmember Larson, where your area is, how it was just jubilation, thank you. So that area received HA5 sealant, whereas there have been streets that are older that, you know, I walked through with Mr. Billingsley, they're cracking and in need of that sealant and repair, and they were documented on that list. When are these projects going to be done? Is there a reference point that you can put up online for residents? Because there are a lot of questions that come to us, not only from areas that we live, it's areas within the entire community. So Florence Gardens has questions. The town of Florence, like the historic area, has been very happy with the work that's been done, that's been communicated. And then there's some areas in the Anthem community where the cracking and everything is happening, and just to keep up on that maintenance so it doesn't deplete.
So staff each year, each cycle does reevaluate the roads, updates that list, and so the highest priorities, not necessarily the oldest, but the highest priorities are done each and every year. So we reformulate that list every single year. So yeah, we can definitely work to have that list posted up there. But it is the opinion of staff that these are the highest priorities by far. Like I said, we went back and we reevaluated all these, and we had two different members of the team evaluate them independently and then compare results.
Okay, excellent. Is there any members from council that has questions?
If I'm reading the project description correctly, the units that are named in terms of the Anthem neighborhoods are Reunion, Serenity, Discovery in Sun City, and Belmont and Andover in Parkside. Those would be units 8, 10, and 12 in Sun City, and units 27 and 39 in Parkside. So that's listed on the project description.
Okay, yeah, and I did read that, and when you and I had talked, those units weren't on that list. And specifically, I know we don't have it here, but in that unit 23 area, those roads are cracked. They'd already gone through a few years ago and put that sealant, and it's even cracked so much more. And it's, gosh, Mr. Anderson, how many years have been between those two communities?
My community was
2006.
was the first one built by Pulte. I think that's right. And I can stick my hand down in the cracks in front of my house, but I'm always down on the priority list for some reason. I think it's unit 21.
Yeah.
I will be glad to personally drive out there and take a look at some of these units and measure any cracks and report back to the council.
Yes, please do so, just because I do walk in all of the units, and the unit that's on this list, I want to say, was built in about 2010, and there really aren't as many cracks. I don't know if the goal is to apply the HA5 before they actually, spread.
Well,
whereas in these areas that we're referencing, like the cracks are legit probably about a ½ inch wide or more.
we should have applied this material a little earlier on, but at this point, there's no priority to rank ones that are in a better condition earlier. That wouldn't necessarily make sense. We are taking the ones that, again, staff evaluated as in the worst condition. But typically, we would like to get to these a little bit earlier, but we already are spending $600,000 a year on pavement preservation. So if, again, in the budget cycle, we want to push that up to 800 or 900,000, I'm sure both myself and Dan Sisk, our street superintendent, would enjoy having a larger budget, but we have to balance that with long-term goals and, road improvements and other items, so.
Absolutely. Now, are you having any additional projects? What other projects are scheduled for this year?
Well,
Or
we
is
did,
this it?
we've already performed, again, the rubberized chip seal for this year on Stewart, on Felice. There were several roads that were done that was the rubberized chip, and then this will be this fiscal year, and that will already push us to, I think, right at almost $600,000 for the pavement preservation projects.
Now, does that include Florence Gardens having everything done that they need done?
Separate budget, but yes, they are in the budget for Florence Gardens 4 and 5. They're using the bond funds.
Okay. And in the Anthem area, there will be no other units that will receive the HA5?
No other units through June 30th as of right now.
Okay. It does deviate from conversations that Mr. Billingsley and I had, and I know that he spoke with you about it, so that does bother me, quite frankly. Go ahead, Mr.
I'd be
Billingsley.
glad to address it. The list that you're speaking to, Mayor, was the list that existed from 2015 that we utilized in 2016. It doesn't have to do with the pavement analysis that's been done by staff since that time. As you said, that list was not even put together by unit. It was put together by individual street and had age, when it was paved, et cetera. And it was ranked, for the most part, especially in Anthem, based on the age that the street was paved, not the existing condition at the time. So staff has spent 2 years now going out and analyzing the streets. I know I helped Chris do it when he first started in the downtown. I was not part of the effort that was done in Anthem, but we have a professional staff that goes and analyzes these streets and gives you a recommendation of which projects should be done and when. And one of my requests to Chris was, I sure would like to spread that money around, the pavement preservation money between Anthem and Florence Gardens and downtown, and that's exactly what he's done for 2 years, is split those projects. Although if we went out and looked at streets, clearly the streets in the downtown are in far worse need of maintenance than any of the streets in Anthem. We have gone about intentionally splitting that money so that we make it go as far as we can, and we provide preservation funds in each of the 3 different areas. And we've received a lot of positive comments. And HA5 is not the only preventative maintenance technology that's used. We also have a crack seal program. And what I've seen staff doing is they get out in front, and they crack seal these subdivisions before we go and provide the HA5, and there's a timing associated with that. I hope I said all that correctly, Chris.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think crack seal would be a good improvement. That will keep the pavement from cracking further. If we would go out and seal all those cracks, the pavement is still in good shape on my street, but there's major cracks.
Wow.
I will personally visit that unit this week.
If you can visit units 21 and 23 and give council a feedback in comparison to the other units as well.
Absolutely.
I would like to see that list up because, as I said, there's been residents from all areas. Florence overall, like the historic area, they are happy with the improvements that are happening, and it's great to see it improved. It really does need that attention. From Florence Gardens, sorry, I had to think of what I was saying. From Florence Gardens, a lot of those visitors are starting to come back, and a lot of what I'm hearing is, how come the work wasn't done when you approved the budget in July? Why is it now we're going to be coming back and we're faced with all of this construction during, the time where we're coming and we're supposed to be enjoying our time in our town. So I'm just sharing and relaying the messages. I know I've already communicated it to Brent, and I appreciate him listening twice.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that we couldn't finish the project earlier to get the improvements done while they were gone. The alternative, which no one wants, is to put it off until they leave again. But that's something we
don't want that.
Yeah, I was going to say that's something we consider. But we're working as diligently to push all of our on-call engineers to get these projects done. without a doubt.
Now, walk me through this, because I do know that our area specifically had been crack sealed approximately 4 to 5 years ago, and it's even spread apart even further. So when you crack seal, do you fill that? Because before it was only about that wide. Now it's about that wide. Do you fill that crack in, or is it just like pantyhose when you get a run and you put clear nail polish over it and it doesn't go any further?
The crack should be larger than, again, 1/8 of an inch, preferably 1/4 of an inch. You should be doing that in the winter when the crack is the largest. We try not to ever crack seal when it's warm, because then the road expands and makes the crack smaller. So if crack seal is done at the wrong time of the year, it's detrimental. And so yes, you want that crack as wide as you can when it's cold, and you apply it obviously in a fashion that it does penetrate down.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that you've educated us all, and I appreciate public also being informed.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I have a quick question.
Yes.
The projects that you have proposed on here, do we have a timeline for when those would be done?
I have not talked to the contractor recently. Once it's approved, though, I'll actually probably be talking to him tonight on the drive home, and we'll be getting out, again, stuff on the webpage through the PIO, and then the public notification will probably be trying to work through, quite possibly, again, the HOA, which was something that I think that was missed from previous years. We're going to be working with the HOA, and then lastly, the door hangers. We're a little bit more acutely aware of, again, some of the door hangers that might have been missed or were missed. And so I'm going to ask again that we try to drive through the streets, at least as these are being applied, so we can kind of back check, make sure the contractor's doing it.
Thank you, Chris.
Yeah, we're definitely going to learn from past mistakes and every year get better. That's an absolute goal of mine. We're never going to make the same mistakes twice, ever.
All right, thank you. If there's no more questions or concerns from council, we would like a motion.
Make a motion to enter into a contract with Holbrook Asphalt Company to provide HA5 high-density mineral bond pavement preservation treatment in various locations as part of the Town of Florence CIP T-69 pavement preservation program in an amount not to exceed $295,034.27.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item 9 is our manager's report.
Madam Mayor, members of council, I have several items tonight. In case you didn't know, Town of Florence is a member of the Arizona Water Association. And it's my pleasure to congratulate our staff. We've been asked to provide a training class for Arizona Water, and I don't mean Arizona Water the company, the Arizona Water Association, to help those folks that are looking to become certified as wastewater treatment and collections individuals. As part of that, the Arizona Water Association is going to host a tour, as well as have some vendors present at our South Wastewater Treatment Plant. That event is going to take place Thursday, October 12th. It's not open to the public. It's specifically open to Arizona Water Association members. But I would invite council, if you'd like to come out to the South Wastewater Treatment Plant between 9 and 10 a.m., you'd be able to see our plant, talk to those folks that have come down for the training that are part of the Arizona Water Association, and to show off our facility. Once again, October 12th, 9 to 10 a.m., and the cost is free to those folks that are coming out. I wanted to let everyone know that our new wastewater operator at the wastewater plant, we recently had a retirement and have hired to replace that position. His name is Victor Grajeda. He has just passed his wastewater collection 1 exam, and that's incredibly fast. I mean, he just was hired a month and a half ago, and he's already passed his level 1 exam. So we hope that he'll be prepared to take his level 2 exam 12 months from now. Next, I'm proud to announce that Mr. Jason Joins, who you all know is our wastewater operator. He has just been named the vice chair of the Wastewater Treatment Committee for the state of Arizona. And that's a real honor for him. And the gentleman he's replacing is kind of a legend in wastewater in Arizona. His name is Doug Kobrick, who has actually been here before this very council presenting on behalf of Hazen and Sawyer. So congratulations go out to Jason for that prestigious position. He's going to be the president upcoming? He's only in the vice for like a couple of months, and then he becomes the president. Oh, sounds like he's going to become the president. El Presidente, as Chris tells me. Thank you for that, Chris. Next, and the chief spoke to this earlier, I wanted to announce to council, but I didn't get a chance, to say that we are done installing the fire sprinkler system in the Brunenkamp building, which we wanted to show the folks downtown that we want to lead by example and make sure that we have proper protection in the town-owned buildings that we have in the historic district. We used some funds from my contingency last fiscal year to bring a contractor on and to install a sprinkler system in that building. So not only do we have the Brunenkamp occupied, which is the first time it's been occupied in a long time and has a renter, we also have installed a fire sprinkler system to protect that valuable resource. The next item to announce is exceptionally good news. Of course, council already knows about it, but Standard & Poor, we just contracted with them to take a look at our credit rating specific to our community facilities districts, and I'm happy to say that we have had a upgrade in credit to BBB credit rating now instead of BBB-. So that will assist us in our future sales of bonds, refinancing, et cetera, and will lower our costs if we choose to purchase insurance on those transactions by getting that improved rating. So congratulations to the town and the CFDs. And lastly, it was already mentioned before, we're very proud of the partnerships that are coming together to restore the fire trucks. And there's been a lot of discussion about that in a nice article in the paper. Thank you, Mark, for that positive article. That's all I have for this evening.
Thank you very much for your report. Item number 10 is department reports. Is there any member of the departments that would like to say anything regarding your reports, or any members of council that has questions regarding any of the reports read? Councilmember Wall.
I would just like to acknowledge and thank fire department employees who were just recognized for 10 years of service to the town. I think that's a wonderful milestone, and it shows a great deal of confidence in not only the leadership, but in the services offered to the town. And also, I would like to acknowledge and thank the landscape architect firm that is providing pro bono services to help with the design of a Veterans Memorial in the community center area. So thank you for making that happen.
Okay, with that, we are concluding our department reports. This is our second call to the public. Is there any member of public? Mrs. Manning.
When you got to the consent items, specifically C and D, you asked if anyone had any questions, and I was both too slow on the draw, and I really wasn't sure if I should stand up, raise my hand, what I should do, so I did nothing. And what I wanted to know, and I don't know if you're permitted to answer this, but item C, is that referring to the zoning lawsuit?
What I can do is Mr. Billingsley and Mr. Matisse, would you like to take over at this time? Okay, no. So after the meeting, what they will do is they will update you exactly on what that means. And then also, would you communicate that to Mark so he can put that in the newspaper as well in case other residents want to know what
all right
specifically addresses?
In the future, I should just stand up when you ask?
Yes, ma'am. Or you know how Mr. Billingsley waves his hand like this? Sorry, I had to.
Thank you.
You can do that. Okay, and call to the council for current events only. Councilmember Larson.
Man, it's been an eventful last couple of weeks. I guess tell congratulations to Jason for El Presidente, so I wanted to make sure to say that. We went this morning, myself as well as Tara and John. We were actually able to attend the Pinal County Attorney's domestic violence awareness ceremony this morning, just to bring awareness that this Domestic Violence Awareness Month is this month. So I just wanted to make everyone aware that that is something that we want to unify on and bring awareness to. I know Tara had said that we are going to be lighting it purple in Florence here coming the 16th, I believe. So I'm looking forward to that. Otherwise, I don't have a whole lot to say tonight. So that's it.
Okay, and we'll also have a proclamation on the 16th for Domestic Violence Awareness Month. We have reached out to Pinal County attorneys as well as some other members that want to join us, and we'll have more information on our website for that as we draw closer. Councilmember Wall.
I already made my comments.
Councilmember Anderson.
Yes, I'd like to talk about the current ruling that we got from the EPA. We found out in August, when we were going through all these hearings, that Florence Copper is actually VHP received an exemption permit in 1997. Now, that exemption permit was never advertised by Florence Copper, and they knew they had it all along, and that exemption permit is just what it says it is. It's an exemption from all requirements for them to allow them to do whatever they want to in that aquifer. So whenever they've been telling people we're not going to pollute the aquifer, they got a license that says they can. And if you read that aquifer permit, you can see that their mine is going to be in our aquifer. Now, I think the limits, Brent, you can correct me, it's like within, they can go out 300 feet outside of their land, if I recall right. But that aquifer permit covers their whole area that they own. So that's what the EPA sort of come back and told us is, sorry guys, they've had this permit since '97, and if you want to go to federal court, you can go to federal court. But the EPA says it's a legal permit, and they're not going to do anything about it. So that's sort of what happened there in a nutshell, so you understand. But we're not giving up the battle. We're going to continue to fight, but that's what happened with the EPA. The other thing that I wanted to bring up, Christian brought up that we went to the Pinal County Domestic Violence Awareness meeting today. And after the meeting, I met with the county attorney and talked to him about issues that we're having downtown at the, I think it's the Florence Sunset Apartments, which is the apartments that we just renovated with some federal funds. The people down there aren't being treated very kindly. The management company's not taking care of the property well. And it's sort of a peculiar situation because the town, you know, we don't have a lot to do with it. You know, there are some codes, like we can make sure that they rake leaves and stuff like that. They had some problems with the garbage cans not being opened. And Chris and his team were down, and we think we've got that resolved. They still have problems getting cleaned up. The county attorney did tell me that he'd have somebody contact me. There's a couple county programs for, you know, senior citizens, senior awareness, protection of our senior citizens, and those people need some kind of advocate, you know, to help them down there, because most of the people who live in there are aged people. So Just want to keep an eye on that down there. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Galeen. Councilmember Hawkins.
Well, you know, on the mine situation, all these years we've been fighting this. From the beginning, from our previous governor to our present governor and our legislators up at the state, not one has stepped up to the base to help protect our water. They get up and they give you lip service every election. Oh, water's important. You see it on the news all the time. We're running out of water. Lake Mead's going dry, which it is. I mean, it's going to be down probably in the next year or so. We're going to lose our CAP water if it drops another, I think it's 17 feet or something. So it's coming. And yet the politicians at the state level don't seem to care. And that's where we're at. I mean, and the courts, I don't feel have, of course, you know, it's when you go before a judge, some judges are probably very environmentally aware, and some might not be so aware or care. But it's been a heck of a battle, and we're still fighting it. But people need to, you know, realize that the town can only go so far without having the people that are really in power, our own, the EPA and our own Arizona departments, water quality, air quality, all of them, the conclusion I've come to, they're not serious about protecting anything. I mean, the rulings we've gotten and the facts don't match up. I mean, they claim they've proven that it's safe, yet we've given plenty of factual examples of where it's not safe at all. And so, you know, I just want everybody to know, you know, we're fighting a good battle and we've fought hard. And it's just very frustrating when we can't get any help from our elected officials. Thank God we've got people elected here in Florence that do care about the town, unlike some of our state officials. That's all I have.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Woolridge.
I would just like to say I appreciate the people that came out and continue to support us, and we are definitely going to do what we can to protect our water. So, like Mr. Hawkins mentioned, call the governors, legislatures, and let them know that we need help down on this end. We have an election coming up in 2018, so remind them about that too. Thank you, that's all.
Thank you. The mine has been an ongoing issue, and it's something that I have informed myself about, researched. Obviously, everybody knows where I stand. I'm opposed to it. My main concern, I've talked to other mayors in our area, in our surrounding areas, even from mining communities. And when we have these conversations, sometimes they'll say, why are you so opposed to the mine? We only have one aquifer that flows north through the community. Where they want to inject is adjacent right to the water supply that gives water that we bathe in, that we drink, that we give our families. It extends into Santan Valley with over 100,000 residents. The fact that there's been so many technicalities that allow them to continue on is quite concerning to me and to our council. at state and federal levels. I appreciate everybody who comes out and continues to support, to communicate their concerns as well. It's important that we stay strong. We want to see our community thrive. We want there to be businesses that come in, but that are compatible with our way of life. We do have an executive session after call to the council this evening. And before I'm just done with my speech, we have a lot of events going on in our town. I encourage you to check the town's website. Everything is posted. We have some music luncheon programs on October 11th. We have an amazing, safe Halloween program on October 31st that is fun for all ages. And with that, we are going to be going to executive session. It will be a lengthy executive session. And if you're wanting to wait until we exit, you're welcome to. Otherwise, we'll come in and adjourn from here as well. With that, we need a motion.
Make a motion, we adjourn to executive session.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign.